An area of managerial accounting called CVP analysis, short for cost, volume, profit, can help answer all kinds of what-if questions. What if we go on vacation to a tropical island with a dormant volcano that suddenly begins to erupt? Okay, that's not quite the what-if scenario I mean. There are a lot of tools we can use to help answer business-related what-if questions, like what if we sell 10% more products this quarter, or what if we decrease variable expenses by 20%? What will happen to our bottom line, our profit? CVP analysis divides costs into fixed and variable costs. Remember that contribution format income statement? This is what CVP analysis utilizes. One useful figure from a contribution format income statement is the contribution margin. Contribution margin is sales minus variable costs. Contribution margin is the amount remaining from our sales figure after we've taken care of all the variable costs. In other words, contribution margin is how much we have remaining to take care of fixed costs and hopefully have a profit. Let's assume we have sales of $1 million and variable expenses of $600,000. This means our contribution margin is $400,000. This tells us that we have $400,000 to cover all our fixed costs and hopefully have some left over for profit. If our fixed expenses are less than $400,000, we will have a profit. If they're more than $400,000, we'll have a loss. Assume our fixed expenses are $300,000. This leaves us with a $100,000 profit. It's great to know that our contribution margin is $400,000. However, there are other ways we can state this amount, and sometimes it may be more useful to have the contribution margin stated in another way. One of these is the contribution margin ratio. This simply takes the contribution margin and changes it from a dollar amount to a percentage. Specifically, it is the contribution margin as a percentage of sales. In our example, contribution margin is $400,000 and sales are $1 million. So what percentage of sales is contribution margin? How much of our sales figure is contribution margin? Time for some division. The contribution margin ratio is 40%. This means 40% of our sales figure is what we have available to cover fixed expenses and profit. This also means that 60% of our sales are for variable expenses. This is actually called the variable expense ratio. For every dollar of sales, 60 cents goes towards variable costs and 40 cents goes towards contribution margin. Now for yet another way we can state contribution margin. We've seen it as a total dollar figure and as a percentage of sales. Now we can restate it as a per unit amount. This is called the unit contribution margin. All we need to do is take the total dollar amount contribution margin and divide it by the number of units sold. If we sold 250,000 units, the unit contribution margin would be $1.60. Now I know what you're asking yourself. Why all these ways to state the same thing? Can't we just use one way? Well, we could, but let me give you an example of how it may be helpful to have an alternative. Let's go back to the beginning of our example with our total dollars. We want to know what would happen to our profit if we increase sales by 25%. We can redo all these numbers to show what they would be with a 25% increase in sales and what the new profit figure would be. However, I can answer the question in one simple step. If all we are changing is sales, I can take the change in sales and multiply it by the contribution margin. If sales are increasing 25%, my contribution margin would increase 25%. If no fixed costs are changing, this increase in contribution margin would also be the increase in the bottom line. Don't believe it's that simple? Let's double check with a new income statement reflecting the 25% increase in change. It does work. What if we increase sales by $300,000? we can take the contribution margin ratio and multiply it by the increase in sales to see what happens to the bottom line. This would increase our contribution margin and profit by $120,000, resulting in a new net income of $220,000. Let me show you one more. What would happen if we increase sales by 50,000 units? Again, I could redo the whole entire income statement, or I could take this increased number of units and simply multiply it by the unit contribution margin. 50,000 more units sold means $80,000 more dollars in profit. Just in case you still doubt me, here's the full income statement with the new numbers to verify. Isn't accounting magic fun?